The most important decision you can make above any on the face of the earth is deciding that no matter what happens in your life, no matter what happens, you're gonna live in a beautiful state. And what the hell does that mean? It means that you're not gonna suffer. It means a beautiful state is that you're gonna be happy, but that's only one. Or you're gonna feel creative, or you're gonna be passionate, or you're gonna be in awe of something, or you're gonna feel love. Any state that's a beautiful state is really the core essence of who you are without fear, right? All of our suffering as human beings, and I deal with people all the time. I mentioned to you off camera, two people I coached yesterday. One's a presidential candidate, and the other one is a rap superstar, right? Both in the same day. And without naming any names, people that have everything, by your point of view, most people's point of view, they have the fame and they have the love and millions of people love them and they have great economics, financial freedom, and they have homes and they have the fashion, they have everything, they're the shit. I can't tell you how many of them are miserable. Right. The majority are miserable. I'm not bullshitting. I'm the one who gets the phone call from the vast majority. When I say miserable, they're so used to it, some of them don't even realize they're miserable, right, but most do. They get in a place where it's like, how do I keep this up? How do I keep outdoing myself? How do I, I built these 32 companies, how to keep all 32 going and make them all grow every single year. And that's not how life is, right? And then they worry about what will people think, what will they do? So the decision to say, I am not gonna suffer, that if suffering arises, pain's one thing, suffering's another. Suffering is when you're like, and the way you suffer is you focus on yourself. Suffering comes when we obsess about ourselves, what we're getting or not getting, what we should have done, what others should have done for us. It's the me game. Right. You, my dear friend, and I say this with no blowing smoke, your primary core is a giver, which is why you're prospering. You're not the me. You're like, how do I give more, do more, share more, create more? How do we do a better job for our clients? How do we do a better job for our internal customers who work with us, our partners? Your entire life is that. That's why you're prospering. And you're not feeling suffering. But when you do suffer, and I promise you do, you correct me if I'm wrong, it'll because you're worrying about something in the future. How's this gonna happen? Will this come together? Suffering can be worry, it could be anger, it can be frustration. It's anything that takes you out of a beautiful state. And here's what people don't get. You can end suffering by stop focusing on yourself and focus on something you wanna serve greater than yourself. Your children, your wife, your mission, your life. You can get out of it in an instant because the nature of the human mind is to constantly compare things. Your mind, your brain is a 2 million year old device, and it is not designed to make you happy. It's designed to make you survive.
Right.
And that's why it's always looking for what's wrong. But it used to be what's wrong, a saber-toothed tiger, so I can protect myself. Now people are worried about what people think about them, or do they have enough money when 2/3 of the planet lives on $2 a day. And you're making $38,000, you're rich. The poorest of the poor in our country are considered rich. I'm not saying they should stay that way. But you can only build on success. And so my view is, if you're watching, if you're listening to this, my goal would have you consider something. Life is short. We don't know how short it's gonna be. But if you only had a week to live, I bet you wouldn't allow yourself to suffer over a little crap that makes you crazy normally. I think you would probably spend time with those you love, you would do what you love, you'd take awe in a sunset, you'd smell the air, you would take in everything in those final moments that you possibly do. So my thing is, why wait? Right? Why wait? Why not just decide that if I start to suffer, I know the solution, because suffering is me obsessing about me. You might say, it's not me, I'm worried about my kids because they're not doing well. No, you're worried that you haven't done enough for your kids. It's about you still, right?
Yes.
You're worried about what was done or what you should have done or what shouldn't have done. And you can end that in an instant by becoming aware of it and saying, I have made the most important decision of all. I would say the 30-year-old would say, this is what we're gonna do this year, and it would be these huge numbers. And I developed a principle around the time I was 30, which is, most of us overestimate what we're gonna do in a year, and we underestimate what we're gonna do in a decade. And a decade happens that fast. You'll blink your eyes and a decade will be here.
That is a great point.
I really, truly, everything I do is long term. I think it's the biggest challenge we have in corporate America, is everybody's looking at the next quarter. Instead of the best business people, the Mark Benioffs, the Steve Wynn's, the Peter Gubers, the people that I hang with, they all are decade-long people. When I was 14, I said, this is how my life's I said, in my 20s, I'm gonna help. I wanna have the skill to help anyone change their life. If I'm committed and they're committed, it's gonna be done. I'll have the ability. So I got to build to that, which I did. And I said, in my 30s, at 14, I said, I'll do that with groups of people instead of one-on-one. And then in my 40s, I'll do it with big groups. In my 50s, I'll do it with companies. In my 60s, I'll either do it in government as a servant there or in a religious context. And I'm a spiritual person, but I don't tell people what to believe religiously. But at that point, I've lived long enough, maybe I will.
First of all, you're talking about stuff that I can relate to like so many others can relate to. I mean, everybody got the same story. We just got different details. And like I always say, life is 10% what happens to you, is 90% what you do about it. See, we're going to dive into a chapter from my new book, and it's chapter 1, section 1. This is very clear for people. So the first step is getting completely and brutally honest enough to say, I am tired of myself. When you say I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, that's the facilitator of change. That's when you're ready to say these words, no more excuses. No more excuses. I went to Kent State, I dropped out. I didn't drop out, I flunked out. Now that threw my life into a spiral, but because I didn't have a college degree, I could not let that stop me. And like you're doing, where you're saying, all my friends at this age are settling in your careers, you don't even know if they're happy or not. Stop comparing yourself to others. So the first thing you do is stop focusing on other people. Instead, focus on being the best version of you that you can. Then you'll recognize that you deserve to sit at the big table with everybody else after you become the best that you can be. Now, once you've accepted that you have as much right to success and much right to succeed as anybody else, the next step is learning how to talk the talk. You have to get fluent in the language of success so you speak it with ease. Surround yourself with people who've accomplished their dreams and immerse yourself in the culture of achievement.
You should never judge your success by other people's accolades. You judge your success by God's instruction to your life and how well along you are with that instruction. Because I found out something in life, the average human being is so mediocre that to be a genius, just do a little extra. Y'all missed that. People are so normal. To be an expert, just go 1 inch abnormal, and they think you're great. So don't judge your success by the masses, what they think of you. Judge yourself by what God told you to do. Can I put it another way? When experience is your best teacher, then progress is imprisoned. Experience could be a curse. I've been taught by my parents years ago that experience is the best teacher. I don't believe that anymore. Experience could cause you to stop progressing because you keep judging your dreams by your experience, or your vision by your experience, and you end up saying, I tried that before, or I never saw anyone do it that way. And you begin to use your experience to stop your progress. This is why God always makes history with young people, because old people got too much experience. You all remember the story with David and Goliath? The problem with Saul, who was the king, was he had experience. And he tried to put his experience on David. He told David, wear my armor, wear my shield, use my sword. David put it on. David said, this thing is too heavy. And he went out and fought the giant with something the giant never saw before. A sling. How do you fight a rock with a sword? Giant says, what is this thing he's using? The giant is trained, experienced with a sword. So he expected an experienced swordsman to come and fight him. But here comes a little boy with equipment he ain't never seen before. We need some people like that in the 21st century who come with some things that they ain't never seen at the office. Think of some ideas that wreck the whole system. That's why Steve Jobs will always be in history as a great inventor. He keep defying his own experience. I was reading his watching a documentary on him 2 weeks ago, and they said that when the iPhone came out, they said to him, that's it. You the ultimate, this is it. He said, no. And he came up with this idea about the iPad. And he said, the people in the company said, it will never work. Why? It's an abnormal size. Either you got a computer or an iPhone. Put it in your pocket or put it in your briefcase. He said, this thing in the middle ain't gonna work. He says, look, we're gonna make this. Now the iPad is the most common machinery people use in the world. Sometimes you got to defy your own board to take progress. Experience, consult your experience, but never let it rule you.
I love the phrase willpower, but willpower isn't something you conjure up. Willpower isn't something you drink. Willpower isn't something you download from Google. What you're talking about is, how do I make the choices that are in alignment with my highest purpose and my highest vision for myself? That's what you really want to ask. See, your life is a physical manifestation of the choices that you made up until this moment. I'm gonna say that again because that gets a little deep, and that can go over some people's head. That can hit you sometimes right between the eyes, and you got to hear it a second time. So here it goes. Your life right now, as it exists today, your finances, your weight, your relationships, your career, your self-esteem, your self-image, your spiritual awareness, all of that is a result of the choices that you've made up until this moment. Big and small. And just so you know, your life, the way it appears today, is not a result of a few big choices. Even though that's the thing that we look back on. We go, I shouldn't have moved out of the state. I shouldn't have got into that relationship. I shouldn't have. We look at the big things. Well, I'm here to disrupt that mindset a bit. Your life experience right now is not so much a result of your big choices, why those impact you. It's really a result of a bunch of small little choices made consistently over a long period of time. Because those are the habits and the behaviors that you've gotten into. So we can talk about willpower and how do I build willpower as if it's something that you can flex in the gym or something you can do crunches or abs or triceps and build, but it's not. The question you should ask, the answer you should be seeking is, what does it take to make my choices become in alignment with the life that I say I want to live? Now, when you say choices, it makes it really sobering, because even when you choose to sit down on yourself, it was a choice. So I ask you in this moment, what will it take you to decide to make the choice today? Don't even think about tomorrow. Don't think about next week, but to make the choice today that's in alignment with your health goals. Make a choice today that's in alignment with your financial goals. It's the small things. It's the extra visit to Starbucks. It's the extra biscuit. It's the getting up early. It's 10 more crunches. It's doing squats every time you go to the bathroom. At least that's what I do. I do 10. I do 10 every time I go to the restroom. I'm already there. I'm just going to keep on going just because I want to stay in alignment with my goal. And my goal is to have a body that at least creates a double take or a triple take, maybe. I don't know. I wanted to create a body that is in alignment with my goal. I want to be able to go paintballing with my nephews and my son the way I just did recently. I want to be able to go jet skiing. So when I look at my life and my lifestyle that I want to maintain, it requires me to hike a little longer. It requires me to eat more vegetables and protein. It requires me, my choice of how I want to live requires my alignment in what I put in my body or how I stay active in my body. So when I date, I don't do dinner dates. I'm not interested in doing dinner dates. You want to date me? Let's go on a hike. Let's go skating, ice skating, roller skating. Let's go on a walk. I want active dates in my dating experience because that's in alignment with my life's purpose. So what are you choosing? Let's not even look at willpower. Let's look at choices. Because choice is something you can control in every single moment. And the choice you made yesterday, if it wasn't in alignment with your greatest goal and your highest purpose, okay, yesterday's yesterday. Make a new choice today. You're not ever condemned or sentenced to making the same choice over and over and over again. Every day, every moment, you have a new opportunity to make a new choice.
People are just afraid, man. So many people are afraid of rejection, of failure. But without failure, you have no success.
Hunger, I believe, is even more important than intelligence. Intelligence is so important, but there are a lot of very intelligent people that never maximize their capability. How many know somebody very smart that can't fight their way out of a paper bag? Say aye. So intelligence is so valuable, but hunger is even more. And if you've come to a program like this, I know the hunger is there. But the second thing it requires is a massive amount of energy. Because what I've found in life is many times people have the ability to do things. They know what to do, they just don't do it. And a big part of that is energy. So when I was back there feeling the energy, we got the music, it's so quiet in here. You're being quiet right now. Most of you are doing what you've done most of your life when you went to an education environment. And what is that? You're now learning the way you did when you went to a 20th century school. In a 20th century school, what do we learn? The bell rings and what are you supposed to do? Immediately report to your what? Position. And when you get to that position, you're supposed to sit down and start a conversation with the people around you. Is that right? You're supposed to initiate. Is that right? No. When you went to 20th century school, you were taught, sit down, be quiet, be passive, wait till someone tells you what to do. Today, if you wait for someone to tell you to do, if you don't talk to your neighbor, you're out of business. Who's with me here? Say aye. So I'd like to change this, because how many of you in this room have ever gone to an environment where you learned something that you thought was really, truly valuable? No one sold you on it. You personally thought, this is really something that could change my business, change my life. You were excited about it. But when you went home, you literally never applied a bit of what you've learned. Who's ever done this before? Raise your hand, say aye. Oh, come on. If you're not raising your hand, you lie about other shit too. Raise your hand, say aye. Who's done this more than once in your life? Say aye. Who still feels intelligent? Say aye. So we're all smart people. Why would smart people learn something, get an environment like this, and then not maximize it? It's because we've all been conditioned by our traditional education, which was designed back in the 19th century, 20th century, where you're designed to get a job, where you were supposed to report at a certain position, someone told you what to do. Basically, it was an assembly line. Today, that's not true. So I like to break out of that, because research shows if you sit and listen to me passively like you are right now, you're being very nice, smiling, nodding your head, being sweet, I appreciate it. But if you do that, research shows 3 months from now, you'll remember about 10% of what was said, which basically was wasting your time, and wasting mine too. I don't want to waste yours, much less mine. So if you listen and take notes, it jumps up to the 40, 50 percentile, even if you never look at the notes again. Because just writing it down drives the groove deeper. So I'd encourage you to do that. I don't see many of you with any form of notes, but I know you have your phones. Some of you do, but if you have no notes, you must not have had a very high expectation of much value coming out of the session, clearly. But thirdly, if you physically engage your body, which is what I like to do, your voice, your body, your energy, engagement is part of what we're going to talk about here in business. It's at the most pathetic level in a long time worldwide. Even though we have all these tools for productivity, we have all these tools for distraction. And as a result, most people are not maximizing. So if we want to transform, the thing we really need to be able to shift is get ourselves engaged at a different level. So what I'd like to ask you to do is, from here on out, if you're willing to, is let's start with some energy. Because let me ask you a question. If you have two people in a relationship, let's just go intimate for a moment. And you have two people, and both these individuals are really, they're in a magnificent state of mind and emotion. Their life is going beautifully. They're happy as could possibly be. And they enter a relationship, two really happy people. What's that relationship going to be like? You tell me, if you know nothing else. What kind of relationship is going to be if you got two people in a great peak state? Tell me, what's it going to be like? Now, if I'm having a soliloquy, you won't get anything out of this. And I'm asking you to not answer the question just so you refer back to me or affirm. I'm doing it because if you sit passively, you won't remember anything. But if you activate your nervous system by raising your hand, by asking questions, by yelling out the answer, then energy will rise. Who's willing to do this? If you are, raise your hand, say aye.
I spoke at an education summit for Microsoft. I also spoke at an education summit for Apple. At the Education Summit for Microsoft, I would say that 70% of the executives spent about 70% of their presentations talking about how to beat Apple. At the Apple Education Summit, 100% of the executives spent 100% of their presentations talking about how to help teachers teach and how to help students learn. One is playing this way, and one is playing that way. One is playing finite, and the other one is playing infinite. Guess which one gets frustrated? So at the end of my talk at Microsoft, they gave me a gift. They gave me the new Zune when it was a thing. And let me tell you, this thing was spectacular. It was the most elegant piece of technology I'd ever used. The user interface was incredible. The design was spectacular. I absolutely loved it. It was easy to use, and it was bright and gorgeous and fantastic. It didn't work on iTunes, which is a different problem, so I couldn't use it, but it was amazing. And elegant. My God, it was elegant. So I'm sitting in the back of a taxi with a very senior Apple executive, sort of employee number 12 kind of guy. And, you know, I like to stir pots. So I turned to him, I said, you know, Microsoft gave me their new Zune, and it is so much better than your iPod Touch. And he turned to me and he said, I have no doubt. Conversation over. Because the infinite player understands sometimes you're ahead and sometimes you're behind. Sometimes your product is better and sometimes it's worse. The goal isn't to be the best every day. The goal isn't to outdo your competition every day. That's a finite construction. If I had said to Microsoft, I've got the new iPod Touch and it's so much better than your Zune, they would have said, can we see it? What does it do? React, 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 react. Finite players play to beat the people around them. Infinite players play to be better than themselves. To wake up every single day and say, how can we make our company a better version of itself today than it was yesterday? How can we create a product this week that's better than the product we created last week? We also have to play the infinite game. It's not about being ranked number one. It's not about having more followers on Twitter than your friends. It's not about outdoing anyone. It's about how to outdo yourself. It's not about selling more books or getting more TED views than somebody else. It's about how to make sure that the work that you're producing is better than the work you produced before. You are your competition. And that is what ensures you stay in the game the longest. And that is what ensures you find joy. Because the joy comes not from comparison, but from advancement.
Let me show you what turned my life every way but loose. Mr. Shoaff dropped this idea on me, changed me completely. Setting goals. Here's what can easily happen if you don't set goals. It's easy to let life deteriorate into making a living instead of designing a life. And we all have a choice. Make a living or design a life. It's easy to get trapped by economic necessity and settle for existence rather than substance. That's easy. But the best advice I can give you on how to break out of that trap is to learn how to set goals. Mr. Shoaff put it to me this way. He said, Jim, if you had enough reasons, you could do the most incredible things. I never forgot how he put that. If you have enough reasons. See, reasons will change your whole life. Mr. Shoaff said to me, he said, Mr. Rohn, I think you've got plenty of intelligence, you've got plenty of talent, you've got plenty of ability. Probably what you lack is plenty of reasons. He said, I don't think your current bank balance is a true indication of your level of intelligence. I was happy to hear that. He said, I think you're much smarter than your present bank balance indicates. And that turned out to be true. I was much smarter. But of course my first question was, well then why isn't it bigger? And he said, you don't have enough reason. You've got enough intelligence, but not enough reason. So see, reasons can change your life. Here's what else I found out. Reasons come first, answers come second. You don't get the answers to do well till you get the reasons. Life has a mysterious way of hanging on to all the answers and only gives them up to the people that are inspired by reasons. So reasons make the difference in how your life works out. Now, what are some of the reasons for doing well? Let's go through a quick list called Reasons for Doing Well. First is personal reasons. Some people do well for recognition. Some people do well for respect. Some people do well for the way it makes them feel. They love the feeling of being a winner. Those are good reasons. I have some millionaire friends that keep working 10, 12 hours a day, making more millions. And it's not because they need the money. It's because they need the joy and the satisfaction and the pleasure that comes from being a constant winner. And see, it's not just the money anyway. It's the journey, not the money. Once in a while somebody says to me, boy, if I had $1 million, I'd never work another day in my life. That's probably why the good Lord sees to it they don't get their million, right? They'd quit. They'd quit.